Hey everybody, how you doing? Thanks for joining me today. Andy here. We're going to do a little hiking and a little overnight camping tonight. Just a single night. So hike in, carry all our gear with us, set up camp, make some dinner, have some fun, pack up tomorrow morning, head back. We're here on the Tecumseh Trail. This section also overlaps with the Low Gap Trail here in south central Indiana. It's pretty calm today, no wind really to speak of, and it's a little overcast. Temperatures are supposed to dip tonight down into the upper teens, so it should be pretty chilly. So stick with us. Campsite from last fall, just a little ways off the trail. It's a nice little spot. Found this a couple times back. I had stayed previously, first time up near the ridge there. Spotted this after I had already set up camp. So it's got a nice little fire ring all set up, and you know, some open spot and some down limbs and trees to sit on and whatnot. But you're up on the ridge, you know, so I liked it because you got the creek down below. So if you need to get water, you're close by. But you're not in the lowest spot, so it's a little warmer up here. And it's a little damp when you sleep down there. So yeah, this is the last site. I'm gonna hike a little further and see if I can't find a new spot. Well, here's another spot right off the trail a little ways. It's just a little ways up from my last site. It's nice and open. It's not a terrible site. You know, as far as overhead stuff goes, I have to stay away from some of that. You know, I could be down here, maybe set up my hammock between the trees. It's a little bit more of a breeze right here, kind of on the top of this ridge. So I'll keep this in mind, but let's hike a little further, see what we can find. Here's another one, a few hundred yards up towards the top of the next ridge. I like this one because there's already a bunch of pre-stacked firewood next to the fire ring ready to go. Don't have much in the way of widowmakers here, so that's not a bad spot at all. Looks like there's some tracks that go down this way. I may hike down along this ridge and see if there's another one a little further back away from the trail. Hiked up this ridge behind me a little ways, and there's a couple of spots. Looks like some evidence that people have camped back there before, but I can't say that there's any location that looks more prime than this setup. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my gear that I set down over by the trail and come up and start to set up camp. Alright, so I got my hammock up, a little tarp to help block some of the wind that's coming from the side, so that'll help keep a little extra warmth. Got my sleeping bag already in there. Got my rest of the gear here. I think the next thing I'm going to do is go see if I can collect a little more firewood of some substance so that you know, we can really get a nice warm fire going for quite some time. Well, I've collected a bunch of firewood, enough to last a couple hours here, not too long. Probably have to collect a little more, wanted to get the fire started. So went ahead and got that going. Spent a little bit of time going collecting a little bit more. I don't plan on letting it go a real long time tonight. You know, it's probably about an hour until the sun goes down. So, you know, I'll have some time to cook a little dinner here, a little Mountain House chili mac, and maybe a warm beverage, and then maybe sit by the fire for a little bit longer after that, and then probably turn in a few hours after sun goes down. So I really only want to have probably enough firewood to go probably about 4 hours or so. And what I have now is probably maybe 2 hours, maybe a little bit more. Most of the stuff that's here is fairly small. There's a standing dead tree that was over here, an old ash tree that has been eaten alive. So I was able to push it over. It's probably, I don't know, 4.5 inches, 5 inches in diameter, something like that. So probably 20 foot tall. So there's enough there to go over and cut up. Although some of it towards the top is pretty decayed. So it's probably going to be the lower part of the tree that might still be fairly decent, but we'll see. And then there's a lot in this area. So there's a bunch on both sides of the trail over here that there's some good standing dead trees that I might be able to just push over and then bring back over here. And with I've got the Silky Gomboy 270 with me today, and I've also got a 26-inch felling axe that can help me split some firewood too. So I've got plenty to be able to process this stuff, and then with a couple of knives that I've got, one of them in particular is a pretty good chopper. The Becker BK39. So I'm just going to sit here and rest for a little bit and enjoy the fire, and then probably about 10-15 minutes I'll spend another half an hour collecting some firewood and bringing it over, preparing it, so that at that point I can cook some dinner and have enough here that as it gets dark I don't have to worry about looking for anything more. So a couple guys came through. There were a few young guys that had all their gear, backpacks and whatnot, so they were hiking further along the trail even than I went, looking for a spot. They probably went by a good 45 minutes ago. Everybody else I've seen has actually been going the other way out to the parking lot. I think 3 different groups that I saw, so only one other group coming in camping for the night. So it's pretty quiet. There's not many people out here at all. I didn't see any campers down at the creek, where there's typically, if there's going to be activity, there's quite a bit typically down there, and there wasn't any at all. So way up here on the ridge, it rises a little bit further, another probably quarter mile that the trail goes, and you kind of get to the top of the ridge at that point. And it kind of bends along, so there's a few spots. There might be some more people out that way, but maybe not. It's pretty quiet, and I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the fire, and we'll talk to you soon. Well, I've finished collecting some firewood. It should be plenty for the next few hours. The sun is starting to go down. You can kind of see it off there in the distance. I finished about 20 minutes ago and thought, let me sit down and do a little light reading by the fire. So it's kicking off a good bit of heat. It's cooling down a little bit, but it feels awesome out here. It's probably right around freezing now. It was about 38, I think, when I came in, and it's supposed to get down into the teens. So I'll check. I've got a thermometer going over there, but it was a little warm being against my body for a while, so let it sit over there for a little while and normalize out. Just doing a little light reading, a walk in the woods. I'm only like a quarter of the first chapter, whatever. I just started 20 minutes ago or something like that. So it seems pretty good so far, and pretty fitting for an evening out like this, out in the woods. So it's a story about a guy, I guess, who rediscovering America on the Appalachian Trail. So yeah, hopefully that's pretty good. I've heard a few things about it, so I thought I would bring it with me on this trip. I'm starting to get hungry. It's been a while since I had anything to eat. I do have a couple little snacks, but I think I'm going to, probably in the next half hour or so, I'll get the pot of water boiling, and I've got a few options. As you can kind of see over here, I've got a big 1.5-liter bottle of water. So I can use, I brought the Stanley. It's I believe it's a 24 ounce cook set in there, so I can use that to throw it. It's stainless steel, right into the fire, boil up the water. My Mountain House is still in my pack, so pour that in. It's just the freeze-dried stuff. But the other option that I thought I'd do in the morning, so I don't have to start the fire again, is I brought a little kind of micro stove. So I've got the butane propane mix, and we're going to try that out for the first time. This is the first time I brought the Stanley cook set too. I usually bring a Pathfinder School kit, which has steel water bottle, nesting cup, a little stove. I've used that many times, and I thought, this is another option. Let me try that. So bringing something like just a regular water bottle, a single item then of stainless steel to cook in. I can use it as a cup also. So yeah, looking forward to try that. Over here, I've got my Holzbrook Kisa X. I've got the Silky Gomboy. I was using those two really to process all the firewood that I've got lined up in addition to what was already here. So I mean that should be plenty. I've got a Becker BK39, which is a great little chopper for some of the smaller stuff too. And then I've got on my hip, I've got the SE6. So this one I've really come to like quite a bit. So it's a great little, not little, but it's a great utility knife. So I can use it for prepping some of the firewood. You can use it even with preparing dinners, depending on what you're bringing. But you can use it just around camp, all different kinds of functions. So it's not too big. Like the BK39. For me, that's a chopper only. It's pretty big. But the SE6 it's got a great weight, good balance to it. It's you can carry it on your hip, and it's very comfortable. And it's not too small, it's not too big. I typically bring a smaller for finer stuff. Just a Spyderco Cat G10. So something just a 2-inch blade versus a 5+ inch blade, or as the Becker goes, much larger. So plenty of tools just to get the job done. I wanted to be comfortable out here, especially with the temperature getting cold, to get all the stuff processed before we start. So I've got time to sit down and read a little bit by the fire. It's just a great way to spend the early evening. It's dead quiet out here. There's nobody around. This is the Morgan-Monroe State Forest here in Indiana, and there is it's about a 10-mile loop in this section of the park, or the forest, I mean. So there's really two trails. So this trail is both the Tecumseh Trail and the Low Gap Trail. So The low gap trail is a loop that goes about 10 miles around. Great scenery. There's some topography, so, some elevation changes. Nothing drastic. I mean, we are in central Indiana, but as you get here into a little bit into the southern part of the state, you get a lot more of the rolling hills, as you can kind of see in the background. So the low gap trail, you can literally start at the ranger station, do a 10-mile loop around. There's some small cliff kind of stuff that's through there. There's nothing major, more ravines and things of that. And you get down here to the backside where there's a whole zone through here that's open to camping. So here in the backcountry, you can pretty much camp anywhere along the trail. And I mean, it's littered with sites. There's 20 or so, and I'm probably only, I don't know, half mile, 3/4 of a mile from the lower parking lot where the creek is. And then further up ahead, the Tecumseh Trail, which joins along with the Low Gap Trail during this section, will branch off and go, I think it's more than 40 some miles of a through hike trail. So that's definitely on my list of one of these times to instead of hiking in a little bit, camping and hiking back out, is take a couple days and hike all the way through. It'll take you all the way down towards Nashville, Yellowwood State Forest, and it ends in Hoosier National Forest. So it's quite a long stretch here in Indiana, one of the longer ones. The Knobstone is another one that's further south that you get into, 60 plus miles, I believe, is the distance. So there's a few that they're piqued my interest. There's something that I'm definitely going to be doing at some point in the near future. But this is good early steps of coming out, testing out some different gear, figuring out what you like, what you don't like. For example, this is a Condor pack that I use, and this is the smaller version. So, packing, most of my gear. I mean, the heaviest thing I've got is my sleep system. The military issued MMS system, the modular sleep system, is pretty heavy. It wouldn't be something that I would probably carry on something like a through hike, especially if the temperatures are a little bit warmer. But if you're down and it's going to be 15 degrees or 18 degrees tonight, something like that, I'm going to be super toasty in that bag, not a problem. But it's it's close to 10 pounds, so lugging that thing around wouldn't be ideal. 40 miles, 60 miles, whatever. So but the thought with this pack is I've got a 3-day assault pack, which is quite a bit larger. It's about, I'd say, close to twice as large as this one. So can you bring a lot less? When I don't bring a tent, which takes up a good bit of space, and I've got I wouldn't consider it an ultralight tent, but it's a fairly lightweight tent. It's about I believe it was about 4 pounds, 4.5 pounds. So that's not bad, but it takes up a good bit of space, and I probably wouldn't bring this pack to carry that, because it's the tent's just long enough that it would be a struggle to get in here. But if I'm going to this kind of sleep system where I've got a tarp, I've got a hammock, and my sleeping bag, then I can use something like this and fit everything in there. I even brought a ground tarp to put underneath it in case I wanted to just have the tarp on the ground tonight and not use the hammock. But was able to find a spot that should help with the wind a little bit. The wind's kind of died down a little bit. It was quiet when I first got here, then it was gusty a little bit for a little while, and then it's kind of calmed down again. So I think that should be great tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a Neo Air camper from Thermarest actually in the hammock underneath my sleeping bag, so that'll provide a couple inches of insulation too, so I don't have an under quilt or anything like that to keep me warm. But I used the same setup a month or so ago, back into January, and January did camp out, and yeah, it was about 27 degrees, 28 degrees, and it was great. So I had no issues with that kind of system. So wanted to try it tonight, where it was going to be 10 degrees colder at least, and see how that is. I'll have to take my water bottle in there and put it at the feet of my sleeping bag, just so that it doesn't freeze up, because I need that water tomorrow morning to make breakfast. And if it's a block of ice, yeah, that's going to make things a little bit more difficult. But I'll throw it in my sleeping bag like I did the last time. It should do enough to keep it warm. So yeah, so this bag's worked out well. It's lighter. It doesn't have nearly as much space, so everything I had was jam-packed in there, and I did not have an inch to spare with that pack. But I may have brought a little too much too. I in this kind of weather, I want to be comfortable. So I've got a base layer, a wool base layer, icebreaker. I've got another wool base layer that's a thicker smart wool, and then this is just a Travex Eddie Bauer shirt that's designed for warmth. Trap that warmth in against your body. So and then this is just an LL Bean wool, polyester wool on the outside. It's got a little polyester on the inside, just for some warmth. It's great sitting here by the fire. My knees are actually a little toasty warm, sitting pretty close, but that feels awesome. So I don't notice that it's cold. But I've got what is that? A Gen2 Gore-Tex jacket that's U.S. military issue. That's their what is that? Level 5 Gore-Tex, and then I've got a level 3 Gen 3. That's an insulating layer. So, and it's big enough that I could wear actually over the wool, and then the Gore-Tex is really just a cover. It's a great windbreak, but if you get nasty weather, also it's going to give you protection against the rain, waterproof and whatnot. So it's not real thick, so you don't get a lot of warmth from that outer jacket. Might as well walk over and show you what I'm talking about. So this is military issue. It's just a surplus. You can get it lots of places. This thing is immensely warm though. And the sizing can be a little tricky, so you really have to look around and figure out how they size these, because they're meant to be kind of a modular system. So you've got two different types of base layers, the third layer, a fourth layer that goes on top of that, a fifth layer, or a sixth layer, depending on which combination the weather dictates. So this one, even though it might be the same size as my base layer, the base layer fits fairly snug. This is fairly loose. It allows me to wear a wool sweater or a sweatshirt like this. This can fit over it really easily, provide a good bit of warmth, and trap that warm air against me. And then you get, this is the Gen 2 Gore-Tex model, and this was the level 5. The level 5 Gen 1 is out there, and man, that thing just got a lot of positive reviews. A lot of people love that. It had been used for a long time. The Gen 2 came out and is very similar. It's a little bit lighter Not quite as noisy. It still has a good bit of that. But it's got, the outer pockets, sleeve pockets. It's got, a lot of great design to it. I looked at the Gen 3 of that, and they had a lot of pass-through pockets where you can zip and get into inner pockets. So if you were wearing, the level 3 fleece, and you had pockets on that, and then you wore the level 5 Gore-Tex, there weren't really pockets, where I wanted them to be on the Gore-Tex piece. It was just a zipper that you could open, and then you could reach inside to another level, another layer that you were wearing. And that's great if you were wearing all of those, in the same generation, all Gen 3 stuff. But I was, looking at different ones that I liked, and I wasn't sure that I was going to go all on the same one. And the older that you go, typically the cheaper that they are. So, a jacket like that, if you look hard enough for a brand new Gore-Tex jacket, I think it ran me $40. So you go out there and you look at a new Gore-Tex jacket and what that's going to run you. It's a couple $100 easy. So, and this is durable. It's military issue. It's meant to go through the roughest of conditions and hold up well. So, so far I love it. It's been great for me. So, it can literally slide over top of that. And as you can tell, there's no insulation to it. It's not meant to be, much more than a windbreak, a weather break from the rain that's coming. But, and sizing wise, again, it fits right over top, both of those. So, you've got a hood that you can roll away. You've got pockets that are easy to get to on your waist, on your shoulder. Just a great piece of kit. I've really enjoyed having that. So, but I don't know that I need all of these items tonight. My warm hat, my trapper's hat, and then I always bring some gloves. That I can use around the fire too if I'm moving sticks and things like that, or when I'm using the axe and the saw, just to have a little bit better protection for the hands. So, well, the sun's gone down completely. I don't know if you can see that, but I am going to go ahead and sit back down and read a few pages while there's still a little bit of light, and get my headlamp out and get ready for making some dinner. And then the fire is burning down a little bit. I think it's time to stoke that fire a little bit and get it going again, and we'll check back with you in a little bit. Just noticed coming up through the trees is the moon. We're just a couple days past full moon, so it should actually be pretty spectacular. It looks like there's still a decent amount of clouds, but I thought it was supposed to clear a little bit tonight, so maybe we'll have some nice views later. Well, I've gotten my Mountain House meal. Can't really see it that well there. Chili mac. So I'm eating that. Man, when you've been chopping firewood and hiking up with a pack on your back, doing all that work, a few hours goes by. When you finally get a chance to sit down and eat, it is just good. It's just good. This just hits a spot. It's so good. The funny part about it is, so as I'm packing up, I've got just plastic utensils that I use a lot of times for camping. They're real lightweight, you just throw them and they clip together so you get a knife, a fork, and a spoon. So as I was getting ready for the trip, I made sure to I need to get my spoon, so I went to the utensils, grabbed it, split it apart, put what I needed in my pocket, put it away, get up here, got my Mountain House meal that you eat right out of the bag, and open up my pants pocket, pull out my knife. So I've got my plastic knife that I'm using to scoop out chili mac out of the bag. So needless to say, it's not the easiest. But hey, you make do with what you got. I'm sitting here going, do I whittle a wooden spoon? I can do it with enough time. And I thought, nah, you know what? Who cares? We'll give it a shot with a knife. It doesn't scoop nearly as much per scoop, but it's working. And man, it hits the spot. It's just good. I'm a fan of this one. I've had this a few different times. So tomorrow I'm gonna have the Mountain House biscuits and gravy. So I'm gonna try that too. So just sitting by the fire. It's still going. Checked the temperature just a few minutes ago. It's about 31 degrees. So it's very comfortable still out here. You can tell from time to time with the fire. It's not so bad right now, but a little breeze will kick up here and there out of the north. So it's definitely cold air coming in when the breeze kicks up. But sitting by the fire, it's pretty comfortable, and I'm enjoying myself. And it's warm, and I just took my boots off a few minutes ago too, and I've got a change of socks, which is always a good thing. But I also like to sit by the fire, and when you're sitting here, dinner or just after, put your feet near the fire and warm them up, and dry out your socks, because even if you don't think you've been sweating, you have. So not only do I get my socks toasty warm before I put them back in the boots, but also dry them out a little bit. So when I go into bed, I don't necessarily have to change them. Sometimes I do anyway, and I've got a backup pair just in case. So, wow, it's just quiet. Moon's come up. Let's see if I can show you that. So it's still hazy, kinda over there, but back here to the west, I can see Orion right up here, and a few other stars that are out. So there's clouds out to the east that are obscuring the moon a little bit, and I don't see any stars much to the north. Maybe a couple, but right above me to the south and west of me, there's a lot. So I think there's clearing that's going to be coming in, which would help with the temperatures dropping into the upper teens. It's like I said, it's still just above 30, but it's pretty comfortable. So just kind of sitting here tending the fire, eating my Mountain House with a knife, and having a good old time, enjoying myself. I haven't heard anybody since that group of three. They might have been teens, early 20s that went through, but that's been a few hours now. So it's just been quiet. I'm gonna tend the fire for a little while longer, and then probably call it a night and go in and I'd like to read some more of that book. I've only 10, 12 pages in, but it's pretty interesting, just the way I enjoy the writing style so far. So hopefully it continues along that path. I've got to probably clean up and put a few things away, probably put them in my pack, lay that underneath my tarp. So it should be pretty frosty tonight. So if I can keep that stuff out of the frost as best I can, it'll just be better for tomorrow. All right, we'll check in with you later. Well, I've sitting here for quite some time near the fire. I think it's about time to maybe let it die down a little bit and think about calling it a night. Remembered the other thing I forgot. Didn't have room for. Would have loved to have brought a can of beer. That would have been nice, just to sit back by the fire and have a beer. Right about now, that would be pretty awesome. Moon's up. It's pretty bright. Even without the headlamp on, sitting here just next to the fire, the moon's, as it gets getting higher in the sky, really lights up a lot of the woods, so you can see quite a ways by the moonlight. So it's pretty cool. Fire's doing great. It's pretty warm sitting here. I'm sure it's probably getting a little cooler, but it won't be too bad until right before dawn. That first few minutes of after you wake up, dreading getting out of the tent or out of the sleeping bag. So that's always the worst for me, especially on those chilly nights, as it's so toasty in that bag you don't want to get out, and the thought of it being in the teens or something like that and frost everywhere, and you have to get out because you got to go over and either get a fire started, or tomorrow I don't think I'll get a fire started. I think I'm just going to use the propane stove, heat up a cup of coffee first, and then after that heat up a cup for my breakfast, for the biscuits and gravy. So that should be good. So, and then probably a lot of it will just be breaking stuff down and getting ready to go. So packing up the tarp and the hammock, and getting all the tools packed up and all of that. We also have the daylight savings change here tomorrow, so the clocks jump forward an hour. So if I wake up at 7 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock. So I've got an hour less to work with in the morning. So that'll make it a little more urgent to get up and go, get things packed up, make sure the campsite looks good, and hightail it back down to the car. And then it's about an hour 20 minutes to get home from there. So it's not a terrible drive, but there's definitely some time that you got to dedicate to it. So well, good morning. I made it through the night. It was a little chilly last night, but really wasn't too bad. I woke up probably about a half an hour before the sun came up, so you can see it coming up through the trees there in the background. So got up, decided let's go ahead and get the fire started to get me warmed up. I wasn't planning on doing that, but I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and do that, make it a little more comfortable. It'll delay my exit out of here by a little while, but not too bad. So I've got some water on there right now for my breakfast. I've already got my coffee cup, one of those boiling already, so it should have a cup of coffee here in just a few minutes. And I've just been listening to the woodpeckers here in the morning go nuts. As soon as the sun came up, man, they were all over the place through here. So it was kind of cool to hear. So it's a beautiful morning. I haven't seen what the temperature is. Just trying to get that. Yeah, it's not. I had to take the watch off my arm, and it's only been about 5 minutes, so it hasn't quite normalized to what the air temperature is. There's a little bit of frost on the ground, but it wasn't too bad. It really wasn't that uncomfortable, and I look forward to the chance anytime I get to sneak out and spend some time in the woods. It's really calm, really peaceful out here. So I'm gonna turn the camera off. I'm gonna, this is just starting to bubble a little bit. I've got a few minutes left on that. I'm gonna go drink my coffee, and then by then, hopefully my water's ready for my breakfast. A little biscuits and gravy, Mountain House special, and then when that's done, I'm gonna start packing up everything and hiking back to the car. So.